You're watching Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. On today's show, the holidays are quickly approaching. It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but a recent CPA Canada BDO holiday poll shows it may also prove to be stressful for the majority of Canadians, including many here in Ontario. Joining me to talk about the survey in detail is Li Zhang, Director of Social Impact and Financial Literacy Leader at CPA Canada. Li, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get into it, can you just start us off on sharing a little bit more about CPA Canada and your role there?
Sure. The Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada runs two important social impact programs. The first is working to address the growing social problem of financial literacy in Canada. Our mission is to deliver objective financial literacy education that empowers Canadians to better their financial wellness. We deliver free financial literacy sessions at the grassroots level through a national volunteer network of CPAs. The second is our CPA Canada mentorship program for Indigenous students. This program provides mentors from the profession to support Indigenous students at the high school and post-secondary levels, helping them to graduate and introducing them to careers in business, accounting, and finance.
Well, those are really great initiatives. And of course, today we're talking about the recent holiday poll that shows that Canadians, including many here in Ontario, they're expecting this holiday season will mean added financial strain on already tight household budgets. The survey, which was conducted by Leger on behalf of BDO Debt Solutions and CPA Canada, says that 94% of Canadians anticipate that the holidays are going to be financially stressful, and around 39% expect that they will feel more financial stress this year. And of course, it's the same in Ontario as well. Again, 94% of Ontarians are going to feel this stress, which is really everyone, which is a jump from 44% than last year. So this is a huge increase, it seems, of the stress that people are going to be feeling this holiday season. Now, this is a little bit generational as well. It seems that younger generations, the millennials and Gen Zs, they're reporting the highest levels of stress associated with the holiday season. So those between 18 to 34, again, about 96% of them are feeling like they're going to be stressed this holiday. And those between 35 and 54, 94% of those are going to be feeling that financial stress. So, Li, when you hear these numbers, is any of this surprising?
Well, Shannon, this is not what the season should be about. And the trend is concerning as it reflects a growing financial strain on Canadian households during a season traditionally centered on joy and togetherness. The rising costs of living, inflation, and increased commercial pressures seems to be contributing to this heightened anxiety. So instead of focusing on the festive spirit, more people are worrying about how to afford their holiday spending, which can affect mental health and family dynamics. And like you mentioned, this is not new, right? Our surveys in the past have shown a high level of stress around the holidays. But when you see that stress, that it's even more prevalent with younger Canadians, as they're likely juggling a lot of demands, possibly they have young children at home, they have aging parents, or honestly just keeping up with social media.
Yes, and thankfully we're going to have some really great advice coming up later in the show to help those people to maybe reset the priorities a little bit. Before we get into that part, though, can you talk a little bit about how much Canadians are thinking that they're going to spend and what they're going to be spending it on during these holidays?
So in the CPA Canada BDO Debt Solutions Holiday Survey, what we've seen is that the majority, so that's 65% of Canadians, plan to maintain the same budget from last year, but are planning to trim their gift giving budget slightly by about 8%. So that's on average $595, down from $645 last year. Two-thirds, 63% of Ontarians, plan to spend about the same as last year. They do plan to spend more than other Canadians when it comes to gift giving. So that's on average $669, while most respondents plan to maintain the same budget as last year. 1 in 5, so it's 18%, say they are likely to overspend. So, what are people planning to spend the most on? So, when we look nationally, gifts are definitely the top priority, and that's 61%. Entertaining is the second highest intended category overall at 37%. Charitable donations, 24%, and travel at 17%, which probably shows a lower priority. In Ontario, gifts are the top priority, 66%. It's highest among the provinces and tied with our neighbors in Quebec. Entertaining, 44%. That's the highest of all the provinces. Charitable donations are a little higher at 31%, and travel is a little higher at 23%.
So it's so interesting too, because in all of these polls that we look at, Ontario often seems to be the province that spends a little bit more during the holidays, and I'm not sure whether that's because perhaps our province has higher earners. That I don't know, but it's interesting that Ontario is usually the sort of the top of the provinces when it comes to spending, especially over the holidays, and so. How are consumers planning to spend this holiday? Because I think that's where there might be a bit of a red flag.
So let's dig into those numbers, and we can maybe start with kind of how Canadians are doing overall, and then we'll talk specifically about those in Ontario. So how Canadians are planning to pay for the holidays? Credit card, no surprise, and savings or regular income, they both land at 56%. Loyalty points, 17%. Line of credit, 4%, and payday loans or cash, both at 2%. Now, when we look at the Ontario numbers, you're going to see a little higher because obviously you mentioned higher spending. 59% are utilizing credit cards, a little lower, 55% savings and regular income. So maybe we're seeing a trend of how we're actually affording that extra spend. 19% loyalty points, 6% line of credit, and 2% payday loans and 2% cash. Now, those with incomes over $100,000 are more likely to use savings and regular income. So their numbers are going to be higher at 62%. But also worth noting that all income levels plan to use credit cards. So we're really seeing that we're like a strong cashless society.
Yeah, it's definitely trending, obviously, in that direction. And of course, that's a little bit on the concerning side because we know that the credit bureaus, Equifax and TransUnion, they have reported that Canadians are struggling to pay down their credit card debt. Balances keep increasing, delinquencies or missed payments are increasing. And so our plan of using credit over the holidays I is not a great trend. I think we want to decrease that trend as much as we can. Now, sort of in addition to that, do you find that these results in this particular poll are they reflective of other research that's been done?
So let's talk a bit about some of the other polls and surveys that are floating around during this time of year. The first is by the Retail Council of Canada. They have an annual holiday spend that actually shows Canadians plan to spend more this holiday season despite the financial challenges. Now, according to their research, holiday spending is set to reach an average of 972, which is up 8%. However, 90% of Canadians plan to seek out deals in the the face of ongoing inflation concerns. There's another study that happens every year from Deloitte Canada that indicates that holiday spending is expected to increase by 10% from last year, with the average shopper spending around $1,400. The reason for the increase is just things cost more. The survey indicates that people may not actually be buying more, just spending more on their purchases. But you'll notice that the amount Canadians are spending can vary from survey to survey. And there's a couple of variables in that. I mean, some will include, entertainment costs as an example, which will increase that number. So what we really want to focus on is that year-over-year change, and what we can see that in some cases it's going up. Now, the other variable that's important to mention is the timing of these surveys. Some of these surveys are asking Canadians well in the summer what they're spending for the holiday season. And a lot of times we confuse what our future selves might be doing versus what we're planning to do as we get closer to the date. So our study goes out, kind of right before that November season, where of course you're surrounded by holiday decorations. So I like to think that Canadians are really starting to think more about their financial situation, and about some of the, even the societal pressures they feel that they're going to need to meet over the holidays.
It's interesting too, because you're right. Some of these surveys it's not just about the gift giving. It's about, are you traveling over the season? Are you spending more on, having the dinners or things like that? And you're right too, in that we are spending more. I mean, and it's not necessarily that because we've budgeted more. It's just that inflation, interest rates, all of these things have impacted our budgets so much that it's just going to become automatically almost that we are going to be spending more in this holiday season. And of course, you just mentioned there about the pressures that we're getting all of the time. You're seeing the decorations, you're seeing the commercials on TV. And of course, that has, I think, a bit of an influence on how we want to go through the holiday season. Would you agree with that?
Oh, so much. I mean, I find the holiday decorations go up earlier and earlier. I am 100% certain that I saw Christmas themed items in August, like before the back to school season. And while personally I love the holidays, I'm one of those people that put up their decorations early November because I need 2 months to enjoy it. But even that's just so extreme. I mean, when Christmas decor is next to all the Halloween items, it's a little weird. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Well, we're going to have some great advice coming up in our second segment. But just before we head into that, there has been some holiday polls as well that have indicated just a few things that I just want to caution about and bring to people's attention. So there was one poll that said that 51% of Canadians who holiday shopped last year and incurred credit card debt, 25% of those people are still paying off that debt a year later. And there was a past survey as well from Equifax Canada that showed that 20% of Canadians experienced debt regret over their holiday spending. And of course, that's ghosts of Christmas past coming back to haunt us. And it's certainly something to keep in mind as we head into the malls, or if we're doing our online shopping as well, searching for that perfect gift. So for viewers, if you're looking for ways to save this holiday season, Lee's going to have some really great advice for you when Money Matters returns after the break.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Are you low on food? Struggling to pay the bills? Overwhelmed by life's challenges? When you need support but don't know where to turn, just dial 211. 211 connects you to the programs or services near you.
211, how can I help you?
211, help starts here.
With Rogers TV, you can cheer on the home team from the comfort of your living room. We'll head to the rink, the field, the court, or the pitch, so you don't have to. Tune in and cheer on your local amateur athletes on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. My guest today is Li Zhang, Director of Social Impact and Financial Literacy Leader at CPA Canada. And we've been talking about our recent CPA Canada BDO Debt Solutions Holiday Spending Survey. And as you heard before the break, the poll, along with other surveys, show that many consumers are ready to spend to make this season merry and bright, even if it means taking on debt. Now, Lee, I want to switch the focus now to giving some advice for our viewers, especially because the majority are experiencing stress associated with the season. And like you said before, that's not what the season is meant to be about. And now, in the past, CPA Canada has cautioned consumers to beware of merriment beyond their means and balancing festive cheer with fiscal responsibility. And those comments seem to be fitting for this year. What do you think?
Well, what we're trying to highlight with these headlines is that we want Canadians to enjoy the holiday season without letting spending spiral out of control. Because at some point that bill comes due and often regret sets in, and it doesn't have to be that way. One approach is to prioritize experiences over gifts. There's something magical and great about sharing a home cooked meal, going out for a winter walk, although the weather has not brought snow yet, or volunteering can bring just as much joy as material gifts. So setting realistic expectations with family and friends can also help avoid unnecessary financial stress, creating a balance between celebration and smart spending. And if gift giving is part of your traditions, think about the ways you gift, right? There's like Secret Santa, where you have one person to get a gift for. There's the White Elephant game, where everyone brings a wrapped present and you take turns opening mystery presents and stealing others. Or you choose to get gifts only for the kids 18 or under, or simply set limits. That all the gifts have to be less than a certain threshold. And yes, I know we don't want to feel like Scrooge this time of year, but you might also be helping somebody else in your circle who has the same financial constraints, but might be too embarrassed to talk about it.
Well, and gauging by the polls, everyone is experiencing this. And so talking about it with friends and family, just to put those ideas in place, talk about setting limits on gifts, talking about let's perhaps just have a nice dinner together and do that. So I like those tips. So I want to get into some advice for our viewers specifically about setting that holiday budget. Lee, do you have any advice on or tips on how people can do that?
Absolutely. First, I think it's really important that you determine what you can really afford to spend and create your holiday budget based on this dollar figure. And don't be embarrassed and don't feel shame about it, but be honest. And do not include things like your line of credit or any room you may have on your credit card, because that's really what is leading to you carrying that debt the next holiday over. And it's important to remember that when you're creating your budget, to be ensured to include all the holiday expenses. So that's not just gifts, it's decorations, it's travel, it's groceries, it's holiday entertainment, absolutely everything. And there are a couple of tips and tricks that I want to share to help you avoid going over budget. The first is use debit if you don't feel that you can use a credit card safely. If you do need to use a credit card, use something like a prepaid Visa, because a prepaid Visa is a great strategy to stick to just kind of that maximum. Avoid spending more on a credit card than you can afford to pay off the following months. So keep track. I normally stack all my receipts together, so when my wallet gets pretty thick, I gotta, think about what I'm spending on next. And, it's also important to keep in mind that if you're not paying it off in a month or two, any sales or deals that allowed you to save this holiday season will end up costing you more. But let's talk a little bit about the risks around credit card usage. Now, credit card debt is one of the most expensive types of debt you can have. Now, if you carry a balance on your credit card at the end of the month, your credit card company charges you an interest at an annualized rate of anything between 18 to I've seen over 30%. If you use cash advances on your credit card, it's even more costly. Cash advances carry higher interest rates than your credit card purchases, often around 25% and more. And there are also cash advance fees that range from 3 to 5%. And there's no grace period, which means that the interest rates or interest starts being charged the moment you withdraw those funds. But a credit card is still a great tool if you can manage them. You can collect great rewards such as cashback or loyalty points that you can use to pay for your holiday expenses. And there are lots of other great ways to save your money, as plan your gift purchases. So have an idea of what you're looking for. Get out there early. Sign up for those newsletters from retailers that you like. Track prices. Give yourself as much time as possible to search for the best deals. Avoid last-minute shopping. This can lead to impulse buying, overspending, and taking on debt. And avoid spending hours online. I'm sure many of us are guilty of what we call the doom scroll, which can totally lead to overspending. And so if you are one of those people, try to implement what we call the 24-hour rule when it comes to anything big or expensive purchases or just any purchases in general. Leave it in your cart. I mean, this will help avoid impulse purchases by giving you time to decide if you really want to spend this money. And then finally, trim your holiday gift list. Even Santa checks his list twice. So buying for every acquaintance, friend, or family member can be overwhelming for you and your budget, and it's often not necessary. Avoid things like buy now, pay later. You see that everything over $100, it gives you that option. If you can't afford the item now, chances are you won't be able to afford it when the holidays are over. And consider regifting, making homemade gifts. They're fantastic. Or give the gift of your time. This can cost you nothing and be a wonderful way to make lasting memories.
There's two things that you just brought up there. One is I love the idea of having that prepaid Visa. Go put your whatever you've set as your budget, put that on the card, and that's what you take with you to the store. I think that's a really good idea. And the other one that I really like is I actually bought a book for myself on how to make gifts from my kitchen. And so it'll be a cookie mix or other different recipes that you can make. So really good ideas on saving some money this holiday season. Now, of course, we talked about this a little bit earlier about we're going to be celebrating with people. We might be invited to parties and celebrations and things like that. And of course, we don't want to miss out on those celebrations. But do you have any advice on not trying to get wrapped up in that festive FOMO?
Yes, FOMO is a real thing. And this time of year, it's especially hard because you can find yourself inundated with invitations for holiday lunches, dinners, parties, celebrations, and trying to attend everything can really add up and quickly. Think about, holiday attire, taxis, Ubers, host gifts, childcare, food. Because holiday FOMO is a real thing, and it really isn't realistic to think that you can attend everything from also a mental health perspective. It's just a lot. So you pick the gatherings you really want to attend and be okay to say, hey, I'm going to skip this event. And if you yourself are planning a get together, make it a potluck. Everyone bring a dish. This can be huge savings considering the high cost of food. Even recently, we've seen that in the last month, the food inflation has gone up. And, worth mentioning as well, in today's digital world, There's so much pressure this time of year to keep up. And I mentioned this earlier, like the social media posts of, what your neighbors are up to with their decorations, their light displays, the gifts, the holiday vacations, and so on. It can be endless and really hard to ignore. And I want to remind all the viewers to keep in mind that what you are seeing on social media may not be reality. Yes, you are seeing beautiful holiday decor, happy photos of families playing with the latest tech toy, or maybe going on some, exotic vacation somewhere. But most of that is curated, right? What you are not seeing is how they are paying for all of it. And again, keep your merriment within your own means.
You've had some really great advice today. I really appreciate that. We're winding down now, but do you have any final advice for our viewers?
Well, I would say, the holiday season is meant to be a time of joy, but financial stress can quickly overshadow it. By staying mindful of spending, setting clear priorities, and remembering that the value of the season lies in connection rather than spending, right? And Canadians can enjoy a festive time while maintaining their financial health. As we move into the new year, taking small, consistent steps towards managing debt and resetting spending habits can make next year less financially stressful. And learn from your mistakes. If you overspent last holiday or even this one, find the hacks that work for you, whether that is early budgeting or early saving, so the holidays don't become a burden.
I love all of that. Thank you so much for being here. For anyone that wants to connect with you, how can they do that?
Well, they can visit our website at cpacanada.ca/financial literacy. They can email us directly, financialliteracy@cpacanada.ca. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram at cpa.canada and on Twitter at CPA Canada.
Well, Lee, thank you again so much for being here. I really appreciate all your great advice. And I want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Until next time, I'm Shannon Jackson.